last video blog of 2020. Um, Tomorrow is New Year, so I'm going to finish what little I have. Um, Back in 2004, when I moved up here, to pursue a PhD in environmental engineering. My goal was to become a professor and then go back to Puerto Rico to try to teach in the area of environmental engineering, chemical engineering, if possible. That's some experience in Puerto Rico because my master's degree was um, I had to find a way to finish the degree without any funding because there was my advisor didn't have funding and all the other professors didn't have funding and finding another advisor that could help me um, was becoming difficult. I tried to find a job, but the problem was like with my degree in chemical engineering, which I pursued because my dad told me to do so. My dad was working in a pharmaceutical. I got into chemical engineering because my dad said, like, well, you don't go for chemical engineering. My original plan was to go for computer engineering, which was kind of new. I like computers. I like playing video games back then, and computers found them fascinating. I wanted to learn more about them. Um, but I ended up applying for chemical engineering. There were times that I wish I could have changed my major, honestly, because I wasn't happy. I didn't like the the environment. My dad was not an engineer, and so he didn't know too much. My dad was working on pharmaceutical. Um, he was a microbiologist, and the company did fermentation, so he was in charge of taking care of the lots. Sometimes he had to work weekends, which I can understand because we're growing up. Um, but he missed certain things growing up, so chemical engineering wasn't like my plan, honestly. But then I discovered environmental engineering, and me thinking about the environment. I like the environment, protecting the environment, all that kind of stuff. I was being the kind of person that think that every action that we take has an impact on the environment. Like you can produce something, but if you're producing something, you're generating toxic waste that will have an impact on the environment. And we want to protect the environment, the resources we use to make things. So that's what got me interested into environmental engineering. And then after I finished my bachelor's degree, I decided to get into the master's program. And after I finished the master, I was like, what now? What can I do now? And I still couldn't find a job in Puerto Rico. I still couldn't find a job anywhere. And I wasn't happy with my options. So I applied for the PhD program. Um, and I got accepted at RPI. And that's how I ended up moving to Troy, New York in 2004. And but two things happened. Like if anybody's looking for um, an advisor, make sure that you know the advisor. You know they're going to. You're familiar with their work, so that will simplify your career when you're going for the PhD. And make sure also that you have that they have funding for you, because the worst thing that you can do is take money to take loans to complete a PhD. It's too expensive. Don't recommend it. And on three, make sure that you get along with your advisor. If you never meet your advisor, try to meet with them, talk to them, see if you like them, see if, how you two mix together. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. And that's what happened to me. Me and my advisor didn't get along at all. We have different viewpoints, we have different interests, and she didn't have any funding at all. And it was like, well, try to see if you can find a professor that have equipment that you can borrow. And it's like, in the school that I was going to, no professor was willing to share their equipment, because it's like, oh, we spend money on this equipment, why would we share it? It's our equipment. We don't want to get it damaged. Um, so my professor used to brag, oh, I borrowed equipment when I went to my PhD and all that kind of stuff, like different university, different place. You can't compare one place to another one. So we ended up pushing aside, and then I decided to get a job, and then I decided to work for the state, and then I was able to get my license in Puerto Rico, my professional engineer's license. Um, but I couldn't get the license here in New York State, and with my job at the time, they wanted me to have the license to be able to move up. If not, I was going to get stuck in the position that I had, and So I began looking to other jobs that will provide that experience. Couldn't find any, and and it was frustrating. And that just and then 2000 it happened. The economy went downhill. I ended up losing that job because of them not having money. I lost my card, so I couldn't. If they would have transferred me to another place, I would haven't been able to go. And so I had to back down from the state position, and I wasn't happy with the state. I wasn't learning. I felt like I was stuck, and getting the license was my goal, so I could move up. And I quit. I took the money that the state did, and I backed down. But couldn't never be able to get back into engineering, and got into retail, warehouse manufacturing. I like manufacturing, but manufacturing sometimes it's just like it's tough. It's a tough job sometimes. Um, and sometimes there's so much drama, and there's so much like if you don't meet the numbers, you're out. Like that's all matters about manufacturing. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are. Um, and now it's 2020, close to 2021, and I'm for myself in deciding what I want to do. I like theater. I like wrestling. I like accounting. I like manufacturing. But I haven't been able to figure out a way to keep myself employed. And with the pandemic, it's like, why do I want to work for a big company? It's risky. It's not even worth. So I'm being very down lately because of that. And I don't know. Anyway, peace out, everybody. Happy New Year, and hope 2021 is better.